Hey, what is up YouTube? This is the Merman Master coming at you guys from the Team Time Riders YouTube channel with the ultimate deck profile, the one you have all been waiting for. That is right, guys. With this most recent ban list, Nekroz are coming back, and they're coming back in a huge way. As you guys may or may not be aware, on this most recent list, Nekroz of BRIONAC came back to 3, and Nekroz of Shurit came back to 1. This might be in line with the most recent reprints that have been announced, but I'm super excited for this. It's been a long time since I've gotten to play Nekroz at even anything resembling close to full power. So this is just such an exciting opportunity for me to profile a deck that I've had for a while that's sort of been collecting dust and that I really want to bring back into the limelight one more time. So guys, without further ado, let's get into this deck profile, and I'm going to show you everything we're playing. So guys, for those of you who may or may not be aware, Nekroz are a deck that focus around rituals, discarding from your hand and special summoning themselves from the field. They have one in-hand effect and one on-field effect apiece. And the idea is not to swarm the field, but to rather out-resource your opponent. It's a very high skill ceiling deck, and you'll start to see that in the way that they're played. So starting things out, guys, first, for the very first time I can say this in a very long time, 3 copies of Nekroz of BRIONAC. Nekroz of BRIONAC is one of your best cards in the entire deck. It's your searcher, and it was at 1. It came back to 2 for a little bit, or when it was at 3, it went back to 2, and now it's back at 3 one more time. Going from 1 to 3 is an amazing consistency booster for this deck, and you know, they're getting there very slowly. But Nekroz of BRIONAC is one of your greatest cards. It basically, you can discard it from your hand to your graveyard and search any Nekroz card, including any ritual monster, any Nekroz monster, including both the rituals and the main deck effect monsters from your deck to your hand. And then when it's on the field, you can target any 2 monsters that were special summoned from the extra deck and shuffle them back into the deck. Very good card, extremely good for consistency, and definitely have to run it at 3 in any Nekroz variant. The next card we have at 3 in this deck, guys, is 3 copies of Nekroz of Valkyrus. Nekroz of Valkyrus is a huge playmaker for this deck. Basically, it's a battle fader a lot of the times. It's got 2 amazing abilities. So first and foremost, it's a battle fader. You can discard it and banish a Nekroz card, any monster, spell, or trap from the Nekroz, from your deck, or graveyard, so banish it from the graveyard, excuse me, and end the battle phase basically, and nothing really happens. Your opponent's just gotta, you know, reschedule and then come back again later. And then its other effect is when it's on the field, you contribute any monster from the field or your hand up to 2 and draw that same number of cards. So not only is it a huge battle protection, but it's also a big consistency booster, allowing you to put a lot of damage on board. It's also got 2,900 attack power, which is extremely good. Next card we are running in here is 3 Nekroz of Clausulus. It's BRIONAC's little brother, so to speak. Basically, Nekroz of Clausulus is amazing for searching you out your spell cards instead of your monsters. And then when it's on the field, once per turn, you can target a monster your opponent controls that was special summoned from the extra deck and negate that monster's effects and turn its attack to 0. And this is a quick effect as well, which means anytime they special summon, if they special summon an Isolde or something like that, you just go Nekroz of Clausulus and immediately negate it. Very good card. Now, arguably one of the best and biggest power plays in this deck that you have is going to be not 1, but 2 copies of Nekroz of Trishula. Nekroz of Trishula is basically almost exactly like Trishula Dragon of the Ice Barrier, except that its first effect is that you can discard it from your hand to your graveyard to prevent targeting, like to make your monster untargetable by like card effects or something like that. Whenever they target it, to negate the targeted effect. And then its other effect, which you like, is when it's special summoned to the field, you can target 1 monster in your opponent's hand, 1 monster on the field, and 1 in their graveyard, and banish them. The main difference between this and actual Trishula is that your opponent must have at least one card in their hand, 1 card on their field, and 1 card in their graveyard in order for this effect to resolve. It's not an effect that basically target, like unlike normal Trishula, this effect basically will not target, but it must be able to get rid of all 3 of those cards if you're going to have that effect go off. It must be able to get rid of all 3, otherwise you cannot activate the effect and it will not resolve effectively. So it does have Duelist Power, but still the real thing for Trishula can banish even if, you know, your opponent doesn't have, you know, anything on either one of those fields. So that's something to know. Next card we're running is probably arguably one of the best cards in the entire deck, Nekroz of Unicore. Until this comes back to 3, I'm not going to be holding any breath for it. It's so amazing. Basically a blanket negation for every extra deck monster on the field. Amazing, absolutely insanely incredible. A fantastic card. And you don't really use its second effect too much to discard it from your hand to your graveyard to add any Nekroz card from your grave back to your hand. The real effect that you have is Nekroz of Unicore's ability to be a blanket negation. If you combine this together with Kaleidoscope and you send Herald of the Arclight, you can also search a ritual card off of your special summon, so it's basically free. That was one of the main things that made Nekroz a super consistent deck. And until this card comes back to 3, I don't really see that the deck returning to quite its former glory yet. Next card we've gotten here is 1 copy of Nekroz of Contaster. A lot of people are split on this card. Many people don't like it. I personally love the card. I think it's great. Basically special summons any of your Nekroz monsters, non-ritual types from your graveyard. When you discard it to the graveyard, and then also kind of has Cataster's original effect to destroy monsters from the extra deck when it attacks into them. So, oops, sorry guys. Very good card in my opinion. Also, the level 5 is quite nice for going for Trishula plays and other different things with some of your back row. Last ritual monster we have in here, Nekroz of Decisive Armor. Another one of my favorite cards. Huge power player, and now that Nekroz of Shurit is back, it's going to be so easy for you to summon this card. You basically are allowed to activate its effect to, you can discard it from your hand to your graveyard to gain let a Nekroz monster you control gain 1,000 attack power, and this can even be during the damage step as well, so it kind of is a little honest. And then when it's on the field itself, it's got a 3,300 attack power body, and at the same time it can, once per turn, it can banish 1 face down card that your opponent controls. So you destroy the card, and then if you do, you can banish that card. So very amazing. It's going to wrap up the rituals. Moving on to the rest of the monsters in the deck. Next cards we're going to have are 3 copies of Manju of the 10,000 Hands and 3 copies of Senju of the 1,000 Hands. Pretty self-explanatory. Get your ritual monsters and your ritual spells and all sorts of stuff from your deck to your hand. Very simple. Manju and Senju are the lifeblood and backbone of this deck. Next card we have in the deck is going to be the one and only, the main event, guys. It is Nekroz caster Shurit, or Shurit, strategist of the Nekroz. The reason why this card is so amazing and why it hurt Nekroz so much when he was banned was because basically his ability is the best that Nekroz have. They are, you're allowed to use this guy as the entirety of your ritual summon, whether you send him from the field, hand, or banish him from the graveyard for any Nekroz effect. Whenever you're summoning a Nekroz ritual monster, this guy can be used as the entire tribute. And then if he is tributed, you can add any warrior type Nekroz monster from your deck to your hand. And guess who are warriors? BRIONAC and Clausulus. Extremely good. So activating this effect to send him to the graveyard with a Nekroz ritual spell to special summon Trishula and then search a BRIONAC after that. Extremely consistent and fantastic for a card. Nekroz Shurit should come back to 2 or 3. That's what we all think, but we're going to play the one we have now, and we thank Konami for giving us this. Now, moving on to the final monsters that we're running in the deck. 3 copies of Great Sorcerer, the Nekroz. He's the second best one, as I want to mention this is a pure Nekroz deck, so I could run the incantations if I did want to. I personally like this the way that it is here. Basically, this effect is that you can send a Nekroz monster from your deck to your graveyard if the card is banished, and then if it is tributed in the same way that Nekroz Shurit is, you can add any spellcaster type Nekroz from your deck to your hand. Spellcaster type Nekroz include the mighty Nekroz of Valkyrus, who is the best spellcaster type Nekroz ritual monster to add from your deck to your hand. Last card we're running for the Nekroz is going to be the one and only Exa Enforcer of the Nekroz. And he's the one for dragon type ones. You can add, when he's tributed, you can add a dragon type Nekroz monster from your deck to your hand. And then if he's banished, you can target a banished Nekroz monster, except this card, and special summon it. So very, very good card. Extremely, extremely effective at what it does. But still, you know, not quite as good as having multiple Shurits in here. Last monster we're running, Perform Mage Trick Clown. Great for link plays and for other plays like that. And if you tribute him or you send to the graveyard in any way, including by Valkyrie's effect, which you kind of want to tribute him by, he'll come back to the field and do good stuff for you. All right, and so that's it for the monsters. Moving on to the spells, we're going to have, starting off with our ritual spell, we have 2 copies. So each of the Nekroz ritual spells right now, one thing that I want to explain, we have 2 copies of Nekroz Mirror, 3 copies of Nekroz Kaleidoscope, and 3 copies of Nekroz Cycle. And this is a large number of ritual spells to have in the deck, but I want to explain this to you guys very simply. So each of the ritual spells have their own effects that are common among all of them. They can be used like normal ritual spells, where you activate their effects and ditch whatever, you know, materials are required from your hand to the graveyard to special summon the ritual monster from your hand. All 3 of them can do that, but each one of them has their own special abilities. Now, the other thing all 3 of them can do is banish themselves and any other Nekroz card to add another copy of a Nekroz ritual spell from your deck to your hand, including a copy of itself, I believe. So add any Nekroz spell card from your deck to your hand. These are the only ritual spells out right now, but if they ever support and give Nekroz other spell cards, you will be able to add them from your deck to your hand with each of these spell cards. So the thing that differentiates the ritual spells is this. Nekroz Mirror is kind of like a miracle fusion for Nekroz cards. So you can use things in your hand and field, but you can also banish them from your graveyard in order to special summon Nekroz ritual monsters, which is great if you have like leftover stuff in there. You use one of these field spells, banish it, search Nekroz Mirror, and then use stuff in your graveyard to banish to special summon the ritual monster. So it allows you to, you know, keep your card advantage going. Nekroz Kaleidoscope is the most interesting one. Allows you to basically send any monster from your extra deck to the graveyard and special summon any number of ritual monsters exactly equal to that monster's level. So let's say you banish, or you send to the graveyard for Unicore's effect what is it called? The Herald of the Arclight, and then you can special summon Unicore to the field, and that counts as the tribute. The other option, of course, is sending something like shooting Quasar Dragon to the graveyard and special summoning a Trishula and a Clausulus off of that effect. Very, very cool card. And then just, of course, getting those abilities off. And then finally, Nekroz Cycle. I decided to bump it from 2 to 3 because I just think it's so amazing. You're using Nekroz hand effects a lot. Nekroz Cycle allows you to summon the ritual monster not only from your hand, but also from your graveyard. It cannot use things from your graveyard or from your extra deck to fusion summon. You must use from the field or your hand, but I arguably think this is the best ritual spell that Nekroz have. It allows you to sort of double dip on the effects. Send something like the Nekroz of Decisive Armor from your hand to the graveyard, boosts the Nekroz monster's attack by 1,000, then activates Cycle's effect, sending like Shurit from your deck to the graveyard to special summon Decisive Armor from your graveyard, and then activate Shurit's effect in grave to search your BRIONAC from your deck to your hand. Very, very good. Now, last couple of spells we're running. Of course, since it's back at 3, we got to do it. 3 copies of Preparation of Rites. Very, very good searching card. Amazing for what it does. Searches you BRIONACs mostly, and searches you Clausulus. Anything that's not Decisive Armor or Valkyrie's can be searched out of the deck with this card, ritual-wise. Also grabs you an extra bonus ritual spell from your graveyard if you do still have one in there. 2 copies, Twin Twister, very good card. Of course, self-explanatory, and 1 copy of Dark Hole to round everything out. So that's going to be it for the main deck. Sorry, I talked a little bit too long for that one. Now moving on to the extra deck, which doesn't really matter too much, but it can definitely be useful in the right situation. Extra deck monsters we're running, toolbox and stuff like that. We've got Evil Swarm, Exciton Knight, Castel the Sky Blaster Musketeer, 2 copies of Gaga Ga Cowboy for burn damage and other kinds of interesting plays. And then for monsters you can send from the deck to the graveyard, we have none other than 2 copies of Herald of the Arclight. Very, very amazing card. If Unicore comes back to 3, Herald's going to still be amazing to run in here. Maybe we could run that spell card at the new Pot of Extravagance to get even more plays off. And then finally, of course, we've got Shooting Quasar Dragon in here for those specialty level 12 plays that this deck likes to do. So guys, that's going to wrap it up for my Nekroz deck profile. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to give a rate, comment, and subscribe to the Team Time Riders YouTube channel for more awesome content just like this. This has been the Merman Master with the Team Time Riders YouTube channel, and I'm signing out. Catch you guys next time. Peace.